All right, welcome back to the Parkour-UK podcast. We've got a very special guest here today, my cousin, James Adam Ward. No, he's not my cousin, but he's been blessed with the fantastic Ward genetics, an incredible athlete, a parent, and we're going to get into all things parkour and thereabouts. And I've got my fantastic co-host here, Nadine Barnard, our head of development.
Thank you.
How are we doing today?
We're all good. How are you?
I'm terrible. No, I'm actually great. Right, so we're going to start how we tend to start, which is what was the route into parkour for you?
Right, so just to get it started, like as a child, I was very Spider-Man oriented. So it was just like, I was just one of those kids who climbed on walls and stuff. I'm sure everyone has a very similar story growing up if they were into parkour. And then I just struggled to find a sport. Like I tried a little bit of karate, I tried judo, I tried like a couple other things here and there, and like due to finances and other stuff, like I weren't able to get into like a football club. So I was like constantly trying to find something that was like free, I guess. So it's just like I could do it on my own, not have to worry about anything. And then I see this guy just like doing a Kong vault over a wall. And I was probably about, I'd say 11 at the time, so about 2010. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, parkour. And I'm like, that's sick. I want to do that. So he teaches me how to Kong. I learn how to Kong, and the story goes from there.
Who was that?
So a guy called Ramon. I haven't spoken to him in a long, long time, but like, you know, he moved away, he was doing his own thing. But like, yeah, he was the first introduction I had to parkour.
Is he still training?
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't spoken to him in a very, very long time. I'd like to hope he's training still, but yeah, it was like the very earliest group of friends that I had in parkour, and we were all like, you know, 11, 12, like moving into our early teen years. So obviously some people stick with it, some people don't, but he was like the ground roots of parkour. Like he watched all the old school videos, so he taught me like all the basic vaults, A to B stuff, like, and he had a really grounded mentality about it. For a guy his age as well, like 12, 13, it was kind of inspiring at the time, I guess, to sort of see that.
Was this in like Kent where you
live?
So you grew up there as well?
Yeah, I grew up in Kent, yeah. So I grew up sort of Gillingham, Twiddle area. Obviously not many people may know Gillingham, but it's got a notorious reputation, but you know, it's my hometown. Don't disrespect my hometown.
Come on.
But yeah, so no, and then we made a big team. Or no, I wouldn't even say a big team. It was like a group of us, like probably like 6 or 7, and it was like just parkour or something, some like shabby name that you throw together with your friends at that age, and then making like really small parkour videos with like dubstep music over the background and stuff, and just doing like small roof gaps and just progressing, I guess, like slowly but surely. But yeah, it was great at that time.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, you covered it a bit there. So because you're also a very well-known member of like the London community, and you really blasted on the scene for a lot of us with a lot of the stuff you were doing in London back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't know how old you were, like 15, 16.
Yeah, I was about 16.
Okay, yeah, at those times. So what were those early days like of doing a lot of coming up to London, throwing down with the Brooming guys, the Run London guys, and doing a lot of stuff we hadn't seen before, you know?
So just a really brief introduction to Adam McKenna. So from the team that I was in, we met Adam McKenna, and then I started training with him, and then he introduced me to the London community and the extended other communities.
But he's from where you're from?
Yeah, he's from Kent. Yeah, so Adam's from Kent as well. He's a local guy. So yeah, he introduced me to the Run London guys because he had met Jaden, Alfie, Jake, etc., and we'd gone up a few times, met a few people, and obviously around the time I started, I was really low key. So I was inspired by these guys doing all these massive things, and then I was like, right, I need to get to this level. Like people like Jaden. Jaden was one of my biggest inspirations for the longest time. So I was just watching his videos in the Run London stuff, Prodigy Movement, whatever it might have been at the time.
This is Jaden Clark from Run London. For anyone that doesn't know, he's absolute legend. We might be. He's in Bali for his birthday right now, but we might get him on the pod at some point, hopefully.
Absolute goat.
Yeah. Proper legend.
Yeah, but so yeah, started going up, and for lack of a better term, puberty hit. And after doing a certain amount of training at that age, and you hit puberty, your muscles just develop. And I just started feeling like things were ready to go. And I was like, right, let's do it. And I was on business basically. And then, yeah, as you say, I uploaded a video called Level Up 2015. And that was my big video. That was the one that I was like, had the front over IMAX 2 on it. Had a bit, what was it? It was like side over to side out at Vauxhall Estate before that got taken down. I think Harry Gallagher did it once. It was like a clear or something. I can't even remember.
Vauxhall Estate was one of the best parkour spots ever. I never got to go there, but it was destroyed actually years ago. but this is a proper bit of history. So that's great. You got to do some stuff there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say it was just like I literally just touched tip on like the Vauxhall Maze and stuff and the Vauxhall Estate before they pulled that down. But yeah, it literally that whole year was just dedicated to just shellings, basically, just getting gaps done, getting progression forward, and just moving into the next era, the next chapter of my training life. And it was honestly like, it was one of my favorite videos to make. Like, I remember not being very happy with the edit, but like my editing skills weren't that great at like 16. I wasn't that oriented. Like I wasn't really focusing on school. I was like parkour. My focus and my aim was on my jumps and my progression. So that was just where I was at the time.
So how are you getting to London each time?
Well, it was begging my parents for £10, £11 when it was affordable to get a train ticket to London Waterloo. But yeah, so that was it. It was just like every other Saturday or every Saturday, depending, and we would just go up. And obviously we would train like every day during the week as well. So we'd like go out after school, do like 3 or 4 hours of training, sometimes more depending. Obviously we'd be out until like 8 p.m. and then I'd go home, wake up next day, go to school, do the same thing again. I think the only day we'd ever have rest was Sunday, just Sunday rest. But like even then, sometimes if we were really gassed and we had somewhere to go, we'd be like, yeah, sure, let's go to another spot on Sunday and do some more training.
Yeah, that's how it is as a kid. You just non-stop.
Yeah.
Boundless energy.
Yeah.
Boundless energy.
Yeah, no.
How is it since you got a little bit older then? Are you finding it more difficult?
To a degree, like I think some people would expect me to struggle more, but I feel like my inspiration for parkour and my passion has actually grown more with age because I have like a finer understanding of like myself. Whereas before it felt like a blind rage of like, I need to do something. I have to have something to do. And I always loved it and I always understood that I loved it, but I never really understood exactly why. So as time has gone on and as like things have become a little bit more tighter in timing and scheduling and stuff, like I have to find ways and reasons to make it work. So I don't know, for me, the passion's just reignited kind of constantly. Like sometimes I'll have like really down moments and then sometimes I'm just like through the roof with wanting to do more and more and more and achieve more. But I think as you get older, you can do more. Like you can always do more. Like as a teenager, it's a lot harder to push for the kind of goals that you want to do because you're limited with like no work, no money. And unless you have like a career aspiration, it's not very easy to like grasp onto that and just stick to it. So if you're trying to make a team, for example, if not everyone has the same ideals, you're not going to move forward with that. So I don't know, kind of coming forward as an individual athlete at the moment, what I'm focusing on is just being the best that I possibly can be at all times and just keep pushing as far as I can until my body gives out, essentially.
Are there any... Because I remember that first video project you put out. I was living in Sydney at the time, and the guys, this is the first thing I saw of you, the guys shared it in there into Sydney Parkour, and they said, Max, it's your cousin, because we got the same last name. So that was the first experience I saw with that. But are there any plans for a video project at the moment because you're training a lot?
Definitely. I've been definitely like... so for the past year, like... I've been sort of reintegrating myself into parkour from like since like April of last year, after having a little bit of a hiatus. So I've just been posting to Instagram and just been like trying to follow the progression there. But they're like, as I'm now at a point where I feel like I'm not even, I wouldn't say peak, but like I'm close to peak. Like I'm close to that point where I feel like I'm ready to start really pushing some boundaries now.
On.
So like a big video is definitely on the rise. I've spoken to a few people about like maybe doing a joint video. I'm not going to say names, but like there's a couple people, you know, maybe someone in the room, but like, you know, just maybe like, you know, a couple of video projects. Like I definitely want to put out a solo one, like a solo banger video would be phenomenal for next year. But I think I need at least a year to like just spend off of Instagram, like just posting basic clips and then just go ham for a whole year and just keep those clips in the data files and then just slap them up at the end of the year for everyone to see.
Yeah, man.
I'll be super excited for that.
Get the confidence ready. I feel like your power and technique all back is just if you get the mindset back to really push, it's going to be different. But you mentioned that hiatus. So you took a few years off parkour. You became a parent. Yeah. What was that like?
Oh, crazy. I mean... Obviously, I'm quite young, so I'm 25, turning 26 January, so next year. So I had my first son at 19. Obviously, unexpected, wasn't planned or anything, but, you know, neither are the greatest gifts in life. So it was just one of those things. So I just adjusted to it. I was still training a little bit when I had my first son, but it was like very few and far between. But like in the earlier stages, it was a lot easier to go out on certain days and do stuff. And then slowly but surely, it just sort of like winded down. I needed to focus on work and being around my kids more and just sort of like establishing those steps. And I can't lie to you, it was difficult not doing parkour for a long time. Like after having that one like crutch, I guess, like that one thing that I do, and then suddenly just being like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Like I can't because the risk for my kids, or I don't want to hurt myself and then be out of work. So like, I don't know, there was a lot of risk factor involved and a lot of like calculating what was appropriate to do at the time as like a parkour athlete. And if you watch any of my videos, you'll know that like some of the stuff I do is quite high level and risky. And I do, you know, I take precedence in that I'm very confident in what I do, and I know I'm not going to hurt myself. Or if I do, it's, you know, a luck chance, or, you know. But yeah, it was difficult adjusting at first, but, you know, I love my children, and that's the love that pushes you through, and that passion is kind of the same from parkour. It's like you just pass that over. You put that passion into your child, and you want them to aspire to greatness and do the same thing. And it's one of the reasons why I got back into it, to be honest. But I had my first child, 2019, second child, 2021. So 5 and 3 now.
Both boys, yeah.
Both boys, yeah. My 2 little boys. They're amazing. They're little handsome fellas. They, you know, they're just like their dad. They're full of energy. They're full of words. They just want to explore the world and just meet everyone, say hi to everyone. Like, I can't stop them from saying hi to people in the street. Like, no, like there are so many kids that I teach as a gymnastics coach that like won't even talk to me. My kids walk up to a complete stranger like, "Hi, what's your name?" Some of my kids try going off with these people. We'll be like out for a walk in the woods, and they're like, "Can I come with you?" Like, no, you can't go with these people.
Stranger danger.
Luckily, they're very like, people are always very nice, but like, it's stranger danger for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But it's I wouldn't say it's been like super challenging. It's more like up here, like in the mind, it's like trying to come over those things. That's the hardest part. It's like allowing yourself to experience it to the fullest and not let your passions fall to the wayside.
No, I mean, I'm very impressed with it. I find like the way that you sort of, because I remember when you took the hiatus and you became a parent, I was like, look, fair enough. You know, things take a precedent. But the way you've managed to come back, train, you're not even from London, but you train in London almost every week now.
Yeah.
And you have this work-life balance, you know, where you see your kids. Yeah, you managed to find time for a holiday recently in Italy, you know. So how do you do that? How do you strike this really impressive work-life balance and kind of manage to juggle it all?
And keep up the energy with 2 kids.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, it's kind of similar to what I just said before. It's like, it's that passion. It's like if I didn't have parkour, like it's one of the main things that I have in my life that I kind of see as like my thing. Like I don't really have much else outside of that. I do have like other small passions and stuff, but I haven't really explored myself in that way. Like I feel like a lot of people have different facets that they fall into. Parkour is like my main one. And if I didn't have that, like full stop, I would be depressed. I wouldn't be able to do anything. Like, and I've had those moments and those small hiatuses. Like, I was struggling a little bit at times because I wasn't engaging myself. Because, you know, we all need that serotonin. We all need that dopamine hit. We all need those feelings of achievement and success. And sometimes the things that you think you get them from, you don't always get exactly what you want from it. And being a thrill seeker for a long time and then not doing it for a long time, it's like how do people do like the train jumps and stuff? Imagine if they just stopped doing those. Like their lives would be mundane after that point because they've maxed out what they could possibly do in terms of thrill. And I saw it as like I still feel really confident in my ability. Like I still feel like I could push boundaries and I don't feel like I've really reached the mark yet. Like I still have a lot to give. So coming back into it, it was more just like, well, what can I do now? Like, so refining my steps, getting back to where I felt like I kind of was before, and then trying to push past that boundary and just keep it moving step by step. And I'm not trying to like force anything. Like if I come out on some days and I'm like, I can't really be bothered. Like I'll do what I can. Like you see me, like my training consistency is quite high. Like if I'm out, I'm training from the second I'm out to the second I go home. But sometimes it might be more chill. Sometimes I might be maxing out every single jump, like just, you know, every time I'm out on a session. But I think
it as it comes. Like.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was it like coming back then for that first time, knowing that you've got a little kid back home?
Well, it was interesting for sure. I think a certain part of me has to separate myself from the kids, I guess. Like the kids are over there, they're doing their thing, they're fine. I'm doing my thing, I'm fine. I'd say the first few months were very like, how much do I do? How much do I not? Because like there were a couple times like I think one of like the second or third super session that I came to, which was one of the main reasons I got back into parkour, was the super sessions. I bruised my heel quite badly on like a Kong to a top of a step, and I couldn't walk properly for like a week. And that really like set me back a little bit mindset wise. I was like, I still want to train. I was like, but I really need to focus on like not just full body sending something like every single time, like because that's pretty much what I did. I was like, yeah, I could do that easy. I was still stuck in the previous mindset of like, I should be this good, I should be that. And really I needed a moment to reset. I needed a moment to like recalibrate. And yeah, like it put me back for about 2 weeks, and then I was like a little bit tingy, like just trying to keep my heel off the floor and stuff and just being a bit more cautious. But yeah, no, it was It's definitely a challenge. Like doing a sport like this when you have 2 children at home, it can be quite daunting because you're like, sometimes I have those thoughts where I'm like, oh, but what if you mess this up, James?
Yeah.
And I'm like, but no, you're not going to mess this up. Like, it's the positive reinforcement, positive affirmations that keep me in good health and good shape. So yeah.
It's an interesting conversation around consequences as well, because I feel like you go through stages as a parkour athlete. Like you start and you're like, when you've never had a major injury or anything, especially if you're maybe a bit talented, quite like a bit of a risk taker when you're younger, it's like you're going up against irrational fear. Let's say that's how you see it, because like, oh, nothing will happen. Then maybe you have a major injury or two, and then you're going up against irrational fear plus, okay, maybe a bit of rational fear. Like there is a chance of this happening, and you almost have another fear of like, well, if something does happen to me, people depend on me.
Yeah.
As well. So there's layers to it. How do you think your training mindset has changed then? Like, and from back then, and also like when you go out to a session, what is your goal? Say, like, do you want to just do the biggest jump? Do you want to like socialize more, or you trying to just get back in shape? What are you trying to get out of your parkour sessions?
All of the above.
Yeah.
It's strictly all of the above. Like, I don't want to limit myself to one thing. Yeah. Like, that's one of the main things that I think I've sort of opened my mind to a lot more. Like, before, it was strictly like, I just want to do big gaps. I want to be known for doing the Jaden Clark gaps, you know that I can name 1,000 athletes right now that do crazy stuff day in, day out. I wanted to be one of those. And now it's more like, I want to make it seem possible for other people to sort of sit in a nice little grounded area where they're good at parkour, they're good at their health, they're good at their strength, etc., and they're not having to compromise themselves for anything. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't, like with the risk taking we were talking about before, like if I put myself at risk, it's not just me that it affects, but it affects a lot of aspects of my life, including my children and my work life and stuff. So as you say, trying to find that balance, it's like I'm constantly at war with myself when I come out to these sessions. So I still want to do these massive gaps, but I have to take a lot more precaution and thought behind it before I actually approach it. Like, people will come up to me all the time at sessions and be like, hey, James, I got this challenge for you. There's this massive jump over here, or there's this big flip jump, or this big Kong Pri, or whatever it might be. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I go and look at it, and then I assess whether it's worth my time. If it's not worth my time, I'll have to just put it to the side and go, well, maybe next time I'll look at that. And it's just however I feel in the moment, and trusting my intuition and knowing that I'm confident in my ability and I understand myself well enough to keep myself safe, and so that I can keep progressing in the sport, and so that my kids have a dad that they can be proud of,
So is that a conscious decision then, that you have to go out there and sort of think, right, I must rein it in, or I must be a bit more careful about what I'm doing?
I mean, sometimes I'm completely unhinged and you'll just see me just doing something. But if I feel ready, like in the moment, if I'm there and my body and mind is aligned, I could be doing anything really. And I have done that a few times in the past year, I think, where I've put myself in a position where a couple years ago, I wouldn't have even thought to do that, because my mind was so set on that risk factor, that idea that I would be putting myself and my children's lives at risk by putting myself at risk and doing things that most people would see as dangerous. And I still get that a lot, like that comment about like, do you not think it's like, you got kids now, you should be thinking about that? And I'm like, well, if I showed my children that I'm fearful of doing things, they're going to be fearful of achieving their aspirations in life and pushing for their passions. So there's always risk in everything you do. It's just down to how you handle it. And I think at the moment, I'm handling it quite well. I mean, as you stated, like, I haven't actually been seriously injured in parkour once. I think I've knocked myself out once, but I've never had like a broken bone.
Knocked yourself out?
That was yeah. So brief interval for the story. It was like a very small, like, it was a tiny line. So I was about 16. This was around the 2015 video time, right? So I did like it was like a tiny little cat leap to a wall, and then I was doing like not a 180 but like a push backwards Kong. Easiest way I can explain it. It was like 4 foot to like a little 2 foot wall, pushed over the wall, went to do a backflip and landed directly on my head. Just spotted it completely bad, and I had a little convulsion. Like, I was on the floor like doing a little bit of shimmying, and my friends at the time.
This sounds like a serious accident.
Yeah. It's probably the most serious parkour bail that I've had, but it was like so unserious. Like, it was like mid backflip, I've just landed on my head, and I'm like, oh,
like a blue screen.
Yeah, basically just like error 404, like I'm out.
Yeah,
and it's the only time I've ever been knocked out as well. So it was really strange, and I just remember like waking up, and I felt like someone was like yanking my arm. All my friends were around me in a circle, but they were like 4 feet away from me, and I was like, get off my arm, and they're like, James, we're not touching you. And I like opened my eyes, and I'm like, whoa, what happened? Like, you just knocked yourself out. And I was like, okay, great, that's fun. And it was like 2 p.m. in the middle of the session as well. And typical 16-year-old me was like, I'm going to stay until we go home. And that was 11 p.m. And I called my mum, and my mum was like, you did what? Why didn't you come home? You effing jeffing this and that. And I was like, sorry, mum. FOMO.
It's actually a good point that though, because often injuries will happen on things you're almost overconfident in and not giving your full focus to, because that wasn't anywhere near your highest level movement.
Not even close.
But because you weren't fully zoned in. I have a lot of these conversations with Dom, and he's had some famous bails and injuries, but the far majority of them are simply because he doesn't give them the necessary focus or preps, or he says he's going to jump something and then he flips it to try and impress people, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if most athletes will really know their ability, and as long as they give the jumps the respect and focus, which you really do now, especially, I believe, that kind of stuff doesn't happen. Yeah. For sure. Well, I guess, good wake-up call when you see
no, exactly, No, it was.
Yeah. What were we on before we went onto the tangent?
I think you were asking about... something to do with the children.
No, your mindset.
Yeah, your mindset.
How my mindset's,
Yes. Whether you have to consciously sort of rein yourself back in.
It very dependent on the day. But like if I'm not feeling it, I will rein myself in, and I will be like, nope. But as I said, that's just like the understanding of your body and your alignment. Like if you can look at yourself and go, respectively, I can't do this right now, that's fine. You just put it to the side. You don't, like, a lot of people will get upset with themselves. They'll be like, oh, I really want to do this. And they'll like frustratingly sort of like take themselves to the side, get annoyed, and then come back to the jump, look at it another 10 times. Like if I'm not doing it in the first 2 times, I'm leaving it and moving on to something else. Like I value my time and
that shows maturity,
energy a lot more.
Yeah.
As an athlete, that shows a lot of maturity to be able to walk away from stuff safely. And it's not even a question of like, I can't do this. It's like, I'm not willing to do this right now, or it's not worth it right now, even if you physically maybe you could. And also, definitely, I think maturity as an athlete, and a parkour athlete especially, is learning not to lie to yourself as well. Not to be like trying to prep it 10 times and like, oh, maybe I'll do it. It's like, it's happening today or it's not. It's fine to walk away and reset. Took me years to learn that, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at a jump within the first 10 seconds and know if you can do it. Like, that's like, it's the kind of training mentality that I would have a lot back in the day. Like, so I would call it the power and placement days, because that was like, we were focused solely on making sure we had power and placement. So we'd look at a jump and we'd go, can we do it? And if we thought in one moment that we couldn't do it, then we'd leave it and move on to something else, because we knew full well that if we weren't, assured of ourselves in that moment, there's no point trying to go for it, because as you said, you're going to have this constant back and forth mental battle, and you could waste up to like 2 hours of a training session on one jump. By the end of it, you might have come out with like a little bit of understanding, but you haven't achieved anything really. But obviously that's with time and experience. Like people have to go through that sort of stage of, to understand when it's time to stop. You need to go to the full extent. Like I've been sat at a gap plenty of times where I've been like, oh, I just need to do it. And then, like when we was at the Brothers Grand Prix, the Super Jam, the big one, the 12-foot big one that they recently just put in, the 2 big walls at Yard.
Okay, the concrete.
The big one. It's
so Yard, the undercover spot by the XXL guys in London, they continually build new things at this great undercover spot in Greenwich. And most recently, they built 2 walls, it's like 12 foot apart, something like that. Massive concrete, which is yet to be done.
I think the closest anyone came was Daniel from Blend.
Danny, who is tiny. He's
like 5'4", 5'5", right?
Yeah. This is a Spanish guy who's recently come to London, and
Powerhouse.
He's an absolute weapon. He's a tiny man. That's, when we had Jordan on the podcast, he was talking about him a bit as well. Yeah.
No, he absolutely slammed that concrete. Like I tried it for about an hour before he arrived, and then like I see him trying it, and I was like, oh, I'm so tired, but I need to go for it again. Like that was one of those ones, and that was recently where I was like, I couldn't walk away from it because I just wanted it so badly, but it was just too big. Like at the time, I reckon I could build up to do it, but Daniel got on top, like feet on top, slipped out, and he was shattered by the end of it, and so was I. But we had a good battle with that one.
You both have it though, and it's one of them ones that's nice because there's different types of movements in parkour, and this is one you can absolutely push yourself to the limit and just safely bounce off again and again. You're not getting hurt, right?
Yeah, that's the main thing.
So like
apart from my hand
the
was
worst
killing.
You'll slap your hands around a bit, but like
you're not going to knock yourself out.
No,
exactly.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Yeah, you can push the limits a bit and just see if you can make it. It's not like a do or die jump. But that one is still up for grabs. I really want to see.
Oh.
I'm keen to see who gets it first. Still an NBD, never been done. So yeah, do you reckon you'll come back for it sometime soon?
For sure. I mean, I might hang off on these winter months because my hands are a bit chilly, you know. So, but I reckon early spring. I reckon it could go if my Kongs
if
get
it's
better.
still up for grabs early spring.
I mean, it's going to be up for grabs regardless if someone else does it.
Of course.
But I hope someone does it soon. That'd be so
definitely.
sick to see.
I have to get Orlando or someone down there. I reckon he might.
You just double Kong it.
How doable do you think that double Kong is?
It's a full spread. Like I reckon the double Kong is technically more doable than the Kong Pre.
Physically, but mentally, so that is
so scary.
That is a more dangerous one. So two hands on the first wall, two hands on the second wall.
It's one of those ones you're gonna like run full sprint at. You're gonna slap your hands on that wall, and you're just gonna go and reach as far as you can.
So that one is like a more do or die movement. But so the one that Orlando did, also at yard from the
third wall to the block.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's a similar size, isn't it?
Yeah. That's
but
like
there's just more room to get it wrong because you land on a big block.
I think he had his hands a little bit further back as well, like not to
No, yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those ones where you have room for a little bit of error, like.
Yeah, so he could definitely do it physically.
Yeah.
But it's a question of the mental game.
Yeah,
We've got to get Thomas from France. I think he'd be a shoo-in to do it. But like you or Orlando, someone could do it, but the mental side is...
No, for sure. Concrete first.
Concrete first. Yeah. No,
I'll get on my big double soon. I'm not on the MPO level yet.
Yeah. The guys out of Marseille are unbelievable with these double Kongs. They're definitely like I think, actually, go on a slight tangent, the MPO guys are the mentally strongest in terms of commitment team ever to do it.
For sure.
Like, they're insane. You know, we talked a bit in some of the other podcasts about Remy Girard from MPO and some of the crazy stuff they did, and just the mindset these guys have, you know, and they do sometimes get called reckless because they have that mindset, but it's also very impressive to watch because they just yell and then like Sapadula, it starts now, and they really get hyped up and they just go for it, but they have the skills to back it up.
Yeah.
Like I've never actually really seen them get bodied badly.
No, they're a team of full sprinters. Like,
yeah.
they have so much.
But I haven't seen
power.
any really severe injuries from them at all, to be fair, despite the fact that they're absolutely pushing the limits.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? So,
I mean, let's hope that obviously, like, you know, they're all good and they stays that way. But yeah, no, I mean, it's really sick to see them pushing those levels. Like, I saw Thomas did the famous Toby Seeger dive Kong in Lisbon, the one that he bailed on. He breezed it. He breezed it.
That was iconic as well. Yeah,
I've wanted to go and look at that for a long time, and he made me feel pretty confident about it. I can't lie. He looked like he just floated over that.
Actually, let me know if you do that, because I want to do the hurdle. So over the first rail to the wall. It's doable.
That is so doable.
It's MBD as well. Yeah. This is a big thing in parkour. Like, really, because we do have competitions, right? But the way we train on the street is different. So the way we compete on the street is at iconic spots doing new things, MBDs, and that's sort of like the little kind of trophy hunting kind of vibe. And
you want to be crowned the first.
Basically. So it's like a subtle competitive
MBD
that we get a bit excited about. Oh, that's fun, man, for sure.
And when you're training, do you train differently if your boys are watching?
Well, I actually have so when we're at home, I do train a little bit differently. If anything, I'm more watching them. I'm kind of like trying to encourage them. I've actually got my son to do like full parkour lines before, and it's actually quite cool. I put like a little video up on my Instagram. So it was just me. He was like, Daddy, film me. And he did like a height drop from this like this I can't even explain. It's like a rock, basically, like a rock formation in a park. He drops down from the rock and then basically just runs through the park and just does like a whole run parkour line around the whole park. And I just filmed him and put it in fast because he was just like zooming. But that was really funny. I took them to a super last year at Canada Water, and I did probably one of like my biggest running hurdles. You know the one. I
was there, man.
And
it was so cool.
It was one of my favorite moments as a dad and as a parkour athlete, strictly because my son was on one of my friend's shoulders and he's watching me about to go for this jump, and I'm pretty sure I one banged it as well. Like I literally just stepped back and I was just like, right, cool, let's go. And I ran, and all I could hear was, "Come on, Daddy!" Like he's screaming, "Come on, Daddy!" And I'm like, suddenly I get this surge over me, and I'm just like, "Woo!" And I'm just sprinting at this, and then I go over, and he's like, "Nice one, Daddy!" And I just, I hit my combo out, and then everyone's just gassing. It's so good.
That was,
So he was your inspiration.
Literally, like he gave me such a big surge of energy in that moment because I was like, I gotta make it now. Like, there's no way I'm messing this up. Like it's done, it's finished.
It's a different level.
You don't want to do that in front of you.
No, of course not.
It must be a different level of motivation. You see that sometimes, like, Yeah, sometimes you see, I've seen a few, I watch some like MMA fighters and sometimes they have a kid and suddenly they just become way better.
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like something about becoming a parent like puts you on
become superhuman sometimes when they're watching you do something and you know you've got to pull it out of the bag, whatever it is, and you just develop this superhuman strength from somewhere.
It's brilliant. I mean, that's the thing as well. And I think most like sons particularly look up to their dads as like a superhero and really look up to them. But you could actually do superhuman
I'm
stuff.
legit Spider-Man
That's
for
what
my
I'm saying.
kids. Like it's so
Most
funny.
dads get superhuman status from nothing. Like you're you know what I mean? You earned it. Like in terms of it's, I don't know. Imagine like a 5-year-old seeing his
You
dad.
should do kids parties.
I've been
My
asked a
son
few
would love
times.
that.
I mean, I'm close to it. Like obviously, I'm like a ninja/gymnastics coach, and I do some level of entertainment there. Like I was doing it yesterday. Like I literally, what was it? One of the kids. I was trying to teach kids backflips, and I was like. They were like, oh, I don't know, like they were just being lazy. And I was like, right, did a backflip. And I was like, this is what it looks like. And they're like, what? And I do another one. They're like, do it on the floor. And I did it on the floor because I did it off a block first. And then like they set up this like big running pre from like a tiny little block to like a slightly bigger like double Kong block. And I dive rolled the whole thing. It was like 13, 14 feet.
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa. And I was, honestly, it's crazy. Like my sons love it. The other kids that I teach love it. Like as you said, that superhero status, like it feels earned. Like it feels,
When you can, as a coach as well, like I used to coach, don't anymore, but when you can really inspire your students and just show them something that they're like, whoa, it's a crazy feeling.
It definitely is. No, because you can see it like firsthand, like the kind of feeling that you would have had like initially as an athlete, like when you started getting into it, you see that inspiration. And like sometimes it's easy to forget, like you're in that moment, you're talking to them, you don't really like, it doesn't really cross my mind straight away. And then I'm like, I deep it and I'm like, oh, I'm actually like probably a pretty big inspiration for this person right now. And I really should consider how I'm actually dealing with this. Like I do try to as much as I can, but it's just easy to forget. But in those moments, particularly like when they're like completely dumbfounded by what you're doing, it's quite crazy.
You're reminded of that. It's crazy. I mean, like imagine like Ellis, who's like the best style athlete in the world. His dad runs a gym and he coaches there a lot and they have competitions and he's there. Like imagine the kids in that gym, how inspired they are. I saw a video on his Instagram story recently, like 10 of them doing Kong gainers one after another. A Kong gainer was invented by a gymnast and it was quickly banned from gymnastics because it was too dangerous.
Yeah.
And we do them on concrete.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. But like just having that inspiration is sick. So do you coach at the moment?
Yeah, I coach at the moment, yeah. I've been coaching for like on and off since I was like 16, 17, but like at this place I'm at for about a year now.
So is that in a gym you're coaching?
Yeah, in a gymnastics gym, yeah. Obviously it's not quite the format that I would like to be in, but like, it's definitely as close as you can get in my area at the moment. Like, so, because it's not parkour sessions, it's ninja sessions. But
it gives you license to just do a bit of everything,
yeah,
right?
exactly. No, I mean, everything is still parkour. Like we still teach, but there's a bit more like gymnastic elements to it and stuff. And sometimes we have to teach them a kick as well. It's kind of funny, like a crescent kick or a roundhouse kick.
Like tricking.
Well, if you're a
not
ninja.
like maybe like kind of like lightly, but obviously, like the kids I teach are quite young, so tricking is like
Yeah.
So what about your boys? Are they getting into parkour? You said a little bit about the park.
I mean, a little bit, yeah. My kids are, they're very, as I said, like their dad, they're very all over the place and they have big energy. They want to do a lot of different things. So I haven't quite got them to focus purely. Like I do get asked about, Daddy, can we go to the parkour park? Like,
That's cool.
Yeah, so obviously like in the current weather period, like, in the season that we're in now, it's going to be a bit more difficult. But I was taking him to the gymnastics gym a little bit. He hasn't come for a little while now, but we're going to reintegrate him again and I'm going to get him doing some real sick stuff. Like he's definitely like, once he hits like 6, 7, 8 and he starts gaining that level of consciousness, like the stuff that he's going to do is incredible. I can see it for both of them. Like they're both incredibly strong-minded and willed and just like their dad.
Do you think you'll worry about them though, like your mum did when you knocked yourself out? Are you going to be there? Is that going to be you?
Definitely. But this is the point. Like the kind of athlete that I am, like to go back into the power and placement, like the team, it was like the ideology is like, couldn't be reckless, couldn't be techless, you have to have good technique. So my son is going to get taught proper technique and he's going to be taught how to properly risk assess, properly be, but I let him have some fun still and figure some stuff out. But I'm going to try my hardest to make sure that if he does do anything, he's under safe precautions. But I'm going to worry all the time. Like, he's going to do anything, I'm going to be like, please don't shin the wall. Like, because like one of my pet peeves, like especially when I'm coaching, is like kids putting their knees on walls and stuff on climb ups, or like it's like elitist. Like, I don't know. It's just like a mindset thing. It's like things we've seen and we've grown to be like, we don't like we don't like that at all.
It's a culture thing for sure. Like, we spoke about this when we were talking with Jordan, who's from Spain. And like it's in the UK, in Spain, in certain countries, there's a real emphasis on correct technique, on sticking a jump with just less than half your foot on the wall, and that kind of culture actually also embeds a lot of safety into it. And we do have that in the UK. We absolutely make a lot of fun out of the Americans for what's known as the American stick, because they're famously like a bit more, with notable exceptions in like a couple of communities like in like Boston and Boulder, Colorado.
Maxwell Henry.
Yeah, Max Henry, exactly. There are notable exceptions, but for the most part, they're very content with landing like a stick, with a lot of their foot on the wall and a bit worse technique, you know what I mean? So,
okay.
Yeah.
So they still stick it, but their technique in getting there is not so
Yeah,
good.
exactly. It's not as clean. They're more content, like
it's
less perfectionist.
It's more of
Okay.
it is more of a stereotype, I'd say. Like there are a lot of athletes out in America who absolutely outperform and do incredible sticks and great technique. But yeah, there was just a few people that came out that were just like, quite big, doing big tricks, but they were like, I'm not even going to name names, but like, like when you land on your arches, it hurts. Like it doesn't feel nice. So when you're doing that consistently, like we cringe. We look at it and that must have hurt, because we know full well when we arch a wall, it doesn't feel good. It does not feel good.
But they like it as well. I think they play into it. They clown themselves on it as well. I mean, like, my technique isn't the most flawless as well, but I take the piss out of myself for it as well.
Exactly.
Like that the biggest jump I'd done, the one up in Sheffield, I did it twice.
Yeah.
Both of them came in pretty hot, arched. Like, I was out for 2 months because I bruised my feet so badly. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm happy I did it.
Send it.
But it is, and that's why it's not just like a perfectionist thing, like, oh, we're better than them. It is rooted in safety as well.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where it stems from. So as pretentious as it is to be like, you need to do this good technique, like
There's a reason.
It's good practice. It's good practice.
Good practice. Yeah.
Go on,
And what about training environment for your kids then? So are you thinking of sort of letting them go in the gym, or would you prefer them out and about on the streets? Both.
Yeah, because I mean, growing up, like, I didn't have a gym. I was outdoors. I was outdoors in the streets, jumping on concrete, bruising my feet, bruising my knees, bruising my arms. Like in the early stages, I got hurt a lot, but it wasn't anything super serious. But it's part of the practice, I believe. So if like we'll have like the term gym rats, like people who spend all their time in gyms and then when they come outside, they're like, concrete, I can't, because there's no soft mats, there's nothing to protect them besides themselves. So the idea of like proper practice of technique is to keep yourself safe in those environments where they're a lot harsher. And then when you go in a gym, you can go all ham, do whatever, try out new things. So I would definitely like to get them in that kind of mindset of like, gym is for pushing yourself, and being outside, proper technique, proper sticks, such and such. To keep this mainly just to keep them safe, like, and so they can continue practicing, same as I would do.
So what do you think the benefits are then, both as a parent doing parkour, but also the benefits for kids doing parkour?
It's a very explorative sport. Like, it's like for anyone who's done it, like, you learn a lot about yourself inside this sport. And it's the same with a lot of different ones as well. But I feel like parkour has a unique element to it where there's almost so much risk sometimes that like you really have to face yourself on a different level than you would on any normal day. And you have to ask yourself some serious questions, and you have to really know who you are. Like, you got to activate these legs, you got to activate your feet, you got to really like get in the mindset of it. So I think for my kids, like trying to get them to understand that, it's a gradual process. And it's the same with anyone. It's like you have to experience it and feel it. It's not something you can say in spoken word. It's like everyone's experience is very individual for it. And I think my kids will be, I'm like a power athlete, but my kid might be a tricker. My kid might be a flow athlete, or, like an American stick. Where but whatever he wants to do, like that's, whatever facet he wants to sort of fall into, whether it be parkour or outside of parkour, I'm going to support him no matter what and try and make sure he's expressing himself to the fullest. But I'd say the benefits are just simply the exploration and expression of self. Like, you can really put yourself in this thing and get a lot out of it and learn a lot about yourself as well in retrospect.
And do you think there are a lot of health benefits as well, like physical health benefits of being able to do parkour?
Depends what kind of athlete you are. If you're an American stick, it might not have as many health benefits. But I know it definitely does. Like,
Hinders.
No, I feel way more resilient. Like, we're out, for athletes like me and Max, like we're out on the street getting our hands dirty, we're like rubbing our hands on our feet. You know, your immune system will probably go through the roof. Like, don't go out like and get yourself ill, and don't put your hands in your mouth after training. But like, you know,
Do you know what? My boy does that. Or like he will be out in the field and then he'll lick his hands. What is that about?
I'm never. If you catch me at yard, I'm never licking my hands. I tell you that for sure.
Yeah,
Yard is a dusty spot.
Don't lick your palms.
No.
We do that for safety. Like I'm an absolute obsessive shoe wiper,
but
because I don't want to slip,
wiping.
because I'm terrified of slipping. So you know, I spit my hands, wipe my shoes to get the dirt off.
Ultimate
But
grip.
it ends. I have to wash my hands for like 5 to 10 minutes after a session and really get
Like
in there.
scrubbing.
Yeah, scrub it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Especially if you go to a spot like yard. I'll have yard in my hands for like 2 days afterwards. Yeah, it's just like ingrained. Yeah.
Go IKEA, get a good hand washing session and really get the nails in, and then like, you know, then I gotta get it out of my
It's
nails.
a process.
Wow.
It's a real
I've never
process.
thought about the immune system. That's
No, it is a good one. But obviously then just the general exercise, like the output, and obviously like you can train however you want. Like obviously if you're like 40, for example, and you're a little bit on the lower spectrum of like physical output, like you can do very low key stuff, nice flow movements, vaults, like Jack Britton. I mean, Andy's a bit of a power athlete, but he does have some flow elements to him as well.
Absolutely.
But like people still succeed in this sport or like push themselves in the sport in ways that you wouldn't think they would at a certain age. So yeah, there's health benefits all across the board, and you can train parkour at any level. You don't have to be like a super high level athlete doing these send it stuff across rooftops like most people think. Whenever anyone asks me about parkour, do you jump on them rooftops? Sometimes,
question, every time.
not as much. Like, you know, as the years have gone by, I kind of go no, like I don't really do that much anymore. But yeah, so it has I'd say it has great health benefits, and there are a lot of very healthy people in parkour. There are a lot of unhealthy people as well, but like you know, I've learned a lot more about body and mind and, you know, nutrition and dieting through people who do parkour than I have anywhere else, really. Obviously the information's out there, but like for me as an individual in parkour, it's nice to see other people that have explored those facets and you know, share that information to everybody.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've learned about parkour since coming into it, is that it's such a diverse sport within itself. Like originally, you think parkour, it's about jumping off roofs. But the more you delve into it, the more you realise that that's not just what it's about. And obviously, we've seen the stuff for older people where they've been doing fall prevention and working on their balance, and it's incredible. It can be for anybody.
Literally anybody.
Yeah.
Like,
and even within like the actual sport itself, the one thing I love potentially the most about parkour is it doesn't pigeonhole you at all. So for every body type and every aptitude for a certain style of movement, you have a lane you can succeed. You don't have to be like 6'6" plus, you know, like a basketballer, or have to have really super fast running ability or whatever, like in athletics. Like you can succeed in so many different ways. And even often like people that don't have an insane power to rate ratio and aren't that athletically gifted. Like I've seen athletes train for 10 years at a very sort of low level and then suddenly really come into themselves confidence-wise, and then they're doing flip prees to rails and things.
Yeah.
Even if they can't actually jump that far, like there are so many facets. You can have a more dance style, more like athletic style. Obviously in London we like the big gaps, but there's so many ways to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the sport, you know. But I think it can be for everyone.
Yeah,
There's
and that's
ways
what sets it apart from other sports.
Yeah.
Like you say, you look at the basketballers, and you've got to be a certain physique to do basketball. The same for rowing. There's pretty much the same for even gymnastics. Like you have to be a certain body type, but parkour just seems to be everyone can fit in somewhere and work to their own strengths and work to their own physique.
Yeah, everyone has their area they can exceed. So like I'm quite tall, high hips, do long, big strides and stuff. Obviously, you want to be as athletic as possible. You want a good power to weight ratio, but you can really succeed in all kinds of levels. And a couple of the best examples are the two most followed athletes in the sport, Joe Scandra and Dom Tomato.
Yeah.
Their like standing jumping power is really not that high in terms of like actual explosive power. What they have is an incredible mindset in terms of being able to conquer fear, you know what I mean? And have been training for so many years and built on skills. And that is how they've succeeded in the sport. So there's so many different ways to do well. And you can train at a really like low skill level for a long time and suddenly level up very quickly, which you if you really develop confidence in your body. And on the health point, like it is, regardless of the way you train, it's about mastery of your body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you got to be able to move like fluidly and really understand, like be aware of your body. And that is just like a healthy practice, you know, altogether.
But one of the things that happens a lot to me in sessions is like when I tell people, like if I look at someone and I understand like how they are as an athlete, and they're like looking at a jump, for example, and I go, you can do that. You can do that. And they're like, you're James Ward. Go away. Like, he's basically just shooing me off. They're like, I'm not you. What are you talking about? And I'm like, no. Like, you can do it. Like, you can. Like, I'm like looking at you from a like, you know. I'm
Is
like
that
trying
from a coach's point of view? Do you see that from a coach's point of view rather than an athlete?
No, not even a coach. It's a friendly little nudge in the right direction. It's like I think you can do that, and you're just not. You're not letting yourself do it. And you know, and not everyone's going to receive it very well. But like, I have it a lot where I'm like, yeah, go for it. But it's because I have that thing where I said, it's like, if I look at it within 10 seconds and I can't do it, like, it's not going to happen. So I try and get it within the first few attempts. And sometimes people will spend a long time. And as you say, it's that alignment, that understanding of your body. Like, if you don't have that, it doesn't matter what I say to you or what somebody else says to you. If you're not feeling it in that moment, it's going to be hard to convince you to sort of go for that. So yeah, it is about mastering the body a lot.
100%. That's a funny point as well, because we do a lot of, like, even a casual training session, you know, a lot of supporting each other. People tend to know each other's abilities, be like, oh, I think you can do that. But then there's a funny one as well, because there are certain people I'll train with, like someone like Klaus, who's mentally very, very strong athlete, physically like on a similar level to me. If he does a jump, I'm like, even though I'm scared, I'm like, okay, I can do it. But then if someone like you or Orlando does it, sometimes I'm like, I didn't inspire that much confidence, because I know the explosive power is so high. So it is a funny one. Like I said, they might be coming from that perspective. It's like, oh yeah, I know you can do it. But you have a different relationship with everyone training, I guess. And sometimes it can be really great though, if you really know someone's ability and they're willing to sort of take your advice on, and you can really support them in that respect.
Yeah, no, the idea for me, anytime I do it, is to try and inspire greatness in people. It's like, I see them, I see the greatness in them and the potential to do whatever they're doing. And I'm like, this is that nudge to go for it. Like, you can do that. A lot of people, as I said, if their head's not in it, I can't convince them otherwise. But, you know, I'm always going to try. I'm never going to stop. You know, I'm going to be that little annoying voice in your ear going, do it.
So we've talked a lot about the great things about parkour, but what do you think we're missing? Where do you want to see the sport grow to? What opportunities do you want to see from it, you know, in the coming however many years?
I mean, I think a lot of those opportunities are coming up at the moment. Like, I've seen a lot more opportunities for parkour athletes come up in recent years. And the way the sport's growing, like, it's exponential. Like, you know, as you said about Joe and Dom, like them being, you know, some of the most followed people on Instagram, like, and athletes in general, like, they are pushing the sport in a direction that I never really would have seen it going. Like, you know, everyone was, you know, we had Storm Freerun, we had Team Farang, we had all these really big teams holding these really big kind of like parts and like forts, I'd say, in the parkour community across the board. And though, you know, obviously slowly those teams diminish and then new people take their place. It's more just like, is there more in the parkour community to really get out of it? Like, for athletes themselves, like, a lot of people get into parkour and then they try and, you know, if, like, for me, I was very passionate and wanted a career in parkour. So I wanted to become a sponsored athlete, like everybody else who I was looking up to and I was inspired by. And you very quickly find out being a sponsored athlete isn't all what it's, you know, spoken up to be. Like, it's actually, you know, a lot of people still had jobs. A lot of people still had to, like, really grind in the background to get things done. And they didn't have, like, it wasn't just parkour that got them there. There was a great deal of hard work behind closed doors that you don't see in those early stages. And I think there's a certain level of vulnerability now in a lot of athletes. So I hope that continues. I want to be one of those athletes, you know, once I get to a certain point where I can kind of be vulnerable and go, you know, it wasn't just like this. It didn't just happen like that for me, where Red Bull just turned around and went, here you go, here's 500K, or, you know, whatever it might be that would, like, set me up for life so I can just do parkour for the rest of it. Because that's more what I want. Like, I want to be able to do parkour for the rest of my life, live off of that. But that's everyone's dream, right? Who's doing parkour? They want to, you know, they want to follow their passion. And
even with Red Bull, which is the best sponsorship, like, let's say, you can get in parkour, it's depending on your following, but it's like a living wage. You know what I mean? It's like an average to low salary, and it is enough to make a living off full time, and like maybe 5 or 10 people in the world have it. But there's no area in parkour where someone's going to hand you like a great, you know, financial situation. The only real route to do that is like if you become a massive sort of content creator, you know, which is a sacrifice in itself, or you get into stunts, but then you kind of stop doing parkour. So it's a big trade-off.
And it's a short-lived career as well.
Yes,
it is.
It's not long-term.
No, exactly. And that's something that I've had to figure out and sort of try and understand over the past few years. But I mean, I would just love to see the community keep growing. I want it to reach levels that skating has. And I think to a certain degree it has, but you know, we can still dominate the world in that sense if we really want to. Like things like what the super community are doing consistently and have been doing fairly consistently, making the Spotlight Yard, trying to make things more accessible for parkour athletes so that they can continue to push with their passion and their sport and their, you know, their social groups that they have within this. Because I think, you know, like the government don't like us very much. They don't really want us around on their their property. So, you know, they make these kind of small parkour spots, which are like, they're okay. Like they suffice for the most part. Like I have a parkour park in my local area, but, you know, it only suffices so much. Like for a lot of kids, like it'd be great for them to start and get started on it. But for me, like there's no progression inside that area anymore. And I can go back to it maybe in a year and do that again. But it's more providing spaces for people to do parkour and I don't know, and maybe more jobs inside parkour, I guess. And I you know, as I said, I can see that flourishing and pushing forward a lot more. And there's a lot more areas or grey areas that people haven't really like tackled yet and gotten into, like what we're doing now, for example. Like, you know, it's not quite like an original idea doing a podcast or something to this degree or a YouTube channel. Like people have been doing it for ages, but like inside of parkour, like, you know, these are still fairly fresh terms. Like people haven't been doing these as consistently. So I think the more we keep pushing through this, I think the finer idea of what could be the future of parkour will come to fruition. In terms of what it is and what I want it to be, I don't really know. I just want to be able to do parkour in 20 years and not be kicked off a spot, I guess. That would be very nice.
Yeah, so it's participation, it's acceptance of like, you know, like local government and communities. And then, I guess it's people watching it, you know, growing that side, maybe a bit more corporate interest. Because there was like a golden era of corporate interest. You know, we had the Barclays card like on South Bank, and then kind of Red Bull stuck with us and everyone else left.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's all those things.
Do you think there's anything missing for kids?
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think they need?
I think a lot of parkour athletes aren't super interested in coaching kids. Like in terms of like bigger athletes, like you have like places like Nova City and places like I work, and there are areas where that definitely does happen. But like I feel like introductory wise, it's for like a lot of the kids that I teach, they all have big sensory needs, and a lot of the reason why they get into the sport is because they have a boundless amount of energy and they need something to kind of like sort of faucet that into or funnel that into. And then it becomes parkour or something to that degree, like some form of like movement expression, which is perfect. It's fine. I do feel like there could be more, definitely could be more, but obviously it's just funding, it's time, you know, trying to like, gyms aren't very profitable across the board. Like even just normal commercial gyms, they're not very profitable. So a parkour gym with very little to no interest, I guess, in terms of like popularity for it being a case, like trying to fill classes and get parents interested in stuff. It just becomes more of like a marketing scheme than it does actually like a passion project to get people into a sport. And obviously like lots of athletes try very, very hard to make it something that's like more grounded and more to the soul of what parkour should be. But everyone's idea and interpretation is different. So how that comes out is going to be, it's going to be different to each person and each coach. I do feel like, you know, for what a lot of us got into in the beginning, like we were just watching YouTube videos, or like me, you just see someone and you're just like, wow, now everyone's got a screen in front of their face, and it's hard to kind of look up and see something in front of you. So you might see some videos online and go, oh, that's cool, swipe past. Your attention span's gone within that 5 minutes and you've probably forgotten about it.
So do you think a good direction for kids then is to actually get into a gym and start learning that way?
For sure. Yeah. Obviously they still struggle for sure, but like, it's, there's no like real introductory in parkour. It's either you want to do it or you don't. Like it's about, like I say, like a lot of the kids that I teach are quite sensory. So like I say, they have a lot of needs and requirements, but they also have a lot of expression and they have a lot of, they want to do more. They want, and like when they start doing these things and I get them to achieve something, the smile on their faces is priceless.
Yeah,
like
so good.
That achievement, that success that they feel and see, and you can resonate with that because you know, like if you're a parkour athlete, you know what that feels like, even on the smallest scale. I remember the first pre I ever did. I remember the first Kong, first flip, and I remember how those things felt, and I still get that feeling to this day. So to see that in somebody else is the biggest thing for me. Like it's not any money that I'm going to be getting. Obviously, we all need money to survive, but yeah, I feel like that's the hardest kind of thing to tackle, is like, how do we keep it to the soul of parkour without compromising our ideals for money?
That's kind of the selling point of the sport, isn't it? That feeling you get of achievement from when you complete a movement, you know. It's quite unique, and it's hard to bring that across because, like we've been saying, there are two major ways people get into parkour: through videos, and then either starting on their own or finding somewhere, or through like a gym community. Yeah. And when you do get successful gyms like Nova City up in Rotherham, it spreads a little bit like wildfire. A few people in the school are doing it; people know about it. But yeah, so just getting that first spark, either by knowing someone who does it or videos, is key. But I think a good direction to maybe try and move into is to show more of that specific thing we get out of it. I remember talking to the Stora guys about a particular specific video they made, and which had the best response ever from in terms of comments. People were saying they were like breaking down, watching the video, never did parkour, and like, oh, I get it now. And so I'm not sure if you remember, it was the one where Josh struggling with a standing pre that's less than his max to this pole that's in the water. Yeah. It's about a 15-minute sequence because he's scared of water, right? It's about a 15-minute sequence of him like freaking out, not committing, going back and forth. He finally does it, right? And because of this build up, and then he ends up in the water, but he does it. It's fine. The satisfaction you can see on his face and the relief, like that is it, and like that's the main feeling we get from parkour. And for me, when I go to a session, that's the feeling I'm after. If I can't get that, I want to support someone else to get that, right? Yeah. So perhaps one thing we can try and do, and I think we actually have started doing this with some of the projects that are up on our website, is show that process a bit more, and like the breakdown of one thing obviously is showing what it's actually like. You don't just go up and jump off a rooftop. There's a process. But then the other thing is like what happens after the jump, what are the feelings? What is the satisfaction? What do you really get out of it? Yeah. And watching, so maybe more media around both of those things could be an asset, and then also just more ways for young people to get into parkour in schools, and stuff like that. That's hopefully as Parkour UK, those are things we're going to try and move towards, because it does all come down to participation.
It does. It does. And having those right roots, because once you've got the kids in that environment, it's really important that it's a good environment that they want to stay part of.
Exactly. That's true as well.
So it's that retention as well as participation.
Yeah. Get the spark, get the retention. Yeah, because I mean, we all started parkour. Like most people who like us, right? Who started parkour and really stayed with it. We knew a lot of people who started and came in and out. Yeah. We just had this passion,
passion.
And so like
fire.
Yeah, exactly. So like a better environment that can instill that in people. But it is things like we talked about, like having a coach that's like a superhero, and you're like, I want to be like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff like that. Having awesome videos. So.
And you never forget those people. Like we all remember a coach or a teacher or someone in our life when we were young that gave us that inspiration.
Yeah, 100%.
I remember a very key moment in my training was literally just Alfie Green telling me to move my feet back when I was trying to do a standing pre. My foot was just slightly over the wall, and he was like, go back to your big toe. And since then, that was like one of the biggest pieces of information I ever got. And it was such a small thing. And I was like, wow, that feels so different. But, I was like 14, 15 at the time. I was just like, I didn't even think about that. Like,
those golden tips when you've been doing a movement for like sometimes years, someone gives you a key tip. I had like from Abdullah, he told me on a cast back to put my thumbs below the corner, and I was like, no, surely not. I did 2 or 3, and I was like, like it's so much better. Yeah.
Changes your whole reality. Like you're like, I've been thinking about this all wrong.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, that is good. Finally, for yourself, for the next few years, what are the goals and plans in terms of parkour, maybe videos, also in terms of life? What are you looking to try and do?
So I'd say one of my main goals at the moment is to sort of move my assets from where I live currently in Kent to London.
Come on, yes! So, I didn't know that.
No.
Yes, come on.
So obviously one of the main reasons is parkour. I don't have much of a community in Kent. Like I've tried reigniting the community a few times, but as we said, people come in and out of parkour. They don't stay for very long, and a lot of my friends have moved away from my hometown now, and they don't do parkour or not very interested in it, or just busy in their lives.
So it's still not a big scene in Kent then?
No, I mean it was at one point, but it wasn't. This wasn't a huge scene. So as we say, everyone drops off. But London being a big city as it is, there's always going to be like a raging community inside there, whether it be small or big or medium, whatever it is. But I love the community in London, and I always have. And I've been training in London since I was 13. So I'm 25 now. That's 12, 13 years. And I've been training parkour for 15 of those. So it's London holds a special place in my heart, and the aspiration is to get a career in London, whether it be through parkour or not. besides the point. Just make some money and follow my passions and my dreams and keep, start traveling abroad. Because the trip that you said about going to Italy, like that was the first trip I ever took out of the country. Like I've never been outside of the country. I've only been to a couple of places in the UK as well. Like very limited travel experience. So I still have a lot to sort of like go and see and go and do, like spots in places like France and Nice. Like I need to go and see the origins of parkour with my own eyes and my bare hands.
And is that something you take your boys to as well?
I would absolutely love to. Yeah. Obviously, like
that would be amazing for them.
Might be a couple years in the making, but like definitely, like I would love to show them, like, especially after I've been to a few places, I'd be like, yeah, Daddy was over there doing that. Daddy was over there doing that. Daddy did this massive jump over here. What? Like, what I mean? I would love to do that, and I'd love to take them to do things like that as well. And
when you're brave enough to take 2 young kids on a plane.
Definitely. Like I was scared on the plane myself. Yeah. I was like gripping on for dear life. I'm still got to get prepared for the second time I get on a plane. So I think that'll be like at the end of February. I'll be going back to Italy again. But that would be sick. It'd be so sick. But yeah. And then pushing the parkour, baby, pushing it to the fullest, and try and reignite some of the community as well, and get people pushing again, and try and be like a big face in the community. That would be. I mean, that's a big inspiration for me for sure.
Sick, man. You definitely are. It's a good point about travel as well, because particularly in Europe, like it is more accessible than some people think, and it's actually astonishing that you haven't traveled, because you're such an incredible athlete. But
it's difficult with kids, Sam.
Yeah, with kids, exactly. Yeah. So if you can do it, like it's in terms of the level, the progression you can get from it is unbelievable. And as hard as moving to London is, it's expensive. Like cost of living crisis and that. The one thing in London that is really affordable is it's still the cheapest city in the world to fly in and out of. Like I went to Albania a couple of weeks ago. It was 15 quid each way for flights. Crazy. The country's cheap.
That Ryanair.
Wizz Air.
Oh,
honestly, Wizz Air is like, in my opinion, it's worse in terms of the seats. Like my knees get screwed, but it's better in terms of deals.
I don't have that
problem. Like
6 foot up problem.
Honestly, Wizz Air is like, you can get to some locations you shouldn't be able to get to. Like I went to Jordan for like under 100 quid. It's like crazy. Because what happens is the governments of these countries subsidize the flights, knock off the taxes, because they want people to come for the thing, for the tourism money. So obviously with a kid, it's a massive struggle. But that is the one that I mean, I'm from Sydney, Australia. That's why I live in London. You know what I mean? It's the accessibility of travel. So that's awesome. Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah. And to be honest, like as I said, there's a lot to explore personally, like outside of the country. Like obviously I've only been to one country outside of the UK now. So it's like, I've got to rack those numbers up. I want to get to 10, 15. And, there's loads and loads of different things that I need to see still, like in person, that I've seen on videos that have absolutely blown my mind. That'll blow my mind 10 times more when I see them with my own eyes. But yeah. And then experiencing the communities and cultures outside of the UK as well, in parkour and outside of parkour. Like, it's just a crazy amount of stuff to do and to experience. And it'll be a good time, as you said, to take the kids with me as well, and try and get them on those experiences, because I never traveled when I was younger. So it was like, giving them something that I never really had growing up. And, I don't hate my parents for that. They did their best, but it's like, it put a lot of drive in me to do that, to actually get to that point where I was like, well, I want to do this. I want to be able to see the world and be a part of it,
100%, man. Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the pod. It's been brilliant.
It's cool. Thank you for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Cool. If you guys want some more content, jump on our website. We got some fantastic projects on there. We got information about upcoming events. We got our memberships up and running. Like, go have a look. It's a great resource for the community, and hope you guys get the most out of it. From everyone here at Parkour UK, train safe.
Thank you. Woo.